Medieval Dreamscapes, the science and stories of sleep in the Middle Ages. Welcome, weary travelers of time, to Medieval Dreamscapes, a journey into the quiet hours when candlelight faltered and all of Europe drifted into slumber. Tonight, we unravel the tapestry of sleep between the fall of Rome and the dawn of the Renaissance, exploring how peasants, nobles, monks, and mystics all surrendered to rest in a world without mattresses, blackout curtains, or Dr. Sleep's white noise machines. Listen closely, for in the hush of these bygone nights lie secrets both practical and profound. The nightly rituals that soothed aching bodies, the superstitions whispered in candlelit chambers, and the ingenious inventions dreamed up by medieval minds to master the elusive art of sleep. We've divided our voyage into 4 parts. 1. Under the thatched roof, how village life shaped the peasant's slumber. 2. Stone walls and feather beds, nobles, castles, and the luxury and dangers of comfort. 3. Monastic watches and midnight prayers, the disciplined rest of monks and nuns. 4. Dreams, omens, and sleep remedies, magic, medicine, and mysteries of midnight. Each part unfolds like a medieval manuscript, blending vivid storytelling with unexpected insights, all paced to fit a 2-hour narration that soothes as it informs. Our first segment begins now. Part 1. Under the thatched roof, sleep in the common village. Imagine dusk descending across a small hamlet nestled by reeds and fields. As the sun dips below rolling hills, smoke coils from chimneys, and families gather around hearth fires to eat black bread and pottage. The day's labor-stending goats, weaving baskets, hauling water yielded to this brief hour of warmth before the long night. Yet, bedtime, for medieval peasants, was not a cozy retreat but a communal affair. In huts of wattle, and daub comprised of interwoven sticks plastered with clay up to a dozen villagers might share one room. Hay-stuffed pallets lined the earthen floor. Livestock, goats, pigs, even chickens, often huddled at the foot of the sleeping platform to share body heat and ward off predators. Darkness and danger. Night brought more than quiet. It carried threats. Wolves prowled at the forest's edge, raiders slipped across borders, and phantom footsteps could echo in the pitch-black corridors between huts. Without glass in windows, the wind's chill seeped through wooden shutters, and the fire's embers cooled too quickly. To keep the cold at bay and to scare off unseen spirits, families clung together under coarse blankets, their bodies forming living fortresses. The 2 watches. Peasant sleep was often segmented into watches. After an initial deep slumber lasting 2 to 3 hours, many villagers would awaken for the first watch time to tend the dying embers, tend livestock, or simply pray quietly. This period of wakefulness could last an hour or more before they returned to a second slumber until dawn. Far from modern insomnia, this segmented pattern was the norm across Europe, dictated by darkness, chores, and the rhythms of communal life. Simple pillows and herbal bedding. Comfort was rudimentary but inventive. Pillows were makeshift. Folded animal skins, tightly bundled cloth, or even rough sacks filled with dried beans or peacock feathers when available. The floor might be strewn with herbs, lavender to repel fleas, rosemary to scent the air, and mugwort for its rumored dream-enhancing properties. These botanical layers served both hygiene and superstition, Fleas would rather cling to herbs than human skin, and the pleasant fragrance dulled the stench of crowded dwellings. Dreams in the village. Villagers believed dreams carried messages from the other world. A vivid vision of a white horse at midnight might foretell a livestock plague. A swarm of black bees could signal arriving misfortune. At first light, neighbors conferred over howling dogs or an uneasy dream, seeking to interpret omens collectively before the day's work began. Dream interpretation manuals rare and costly circulated among the wealthier peasants, but most guidance came by word of mouth. A grandmother's lullaby might caution a child. If you dream of broken spade, tend your fields twice as much tomorrow. The clock that never ticks. Without mechanical clocks, villagers measured time by natural signs, the position of stars, the crowing of roosters, or the glow of the moon. Churches sometimes rang a simple bell at night for urgent summons births, fires, attackers, but these clangs were not precise. Thus, sleep-wake cycles remained bound to nature's unhurried pace. Candle lengths, too, served as timers. A 2-inch tallow candle burned roughly an hour, so a common phrase was, "by the 2nd inch of wax." Anatomy of a night. Picture this. By 8 o'clock, families gather at the table. By 9, children are laid beside mother and father on the straw mattress, wrapped in patched woolen cloths. By midnight's first tolla, local parish may have kept a crude, bellingly hushed whispers float above hay piles. A carbon candle guttering in the corner casts faint shadows of swaying heads. At around 3 a.m., someone rises to stoke coals or hush a frightened goat, and sleep drifts away for an hour until the sky blanches with the first glimmer of dawn. Thus ends our first segment, guiding you through the humble yet resourceful world that shaped every medieval peasant's rest. In our next chapter, we'll cross the drawbridge into the lofty towers and grand halls where nobles wrestled with opulence, privacy, and the perils of too soft mattresses. Part 2. Stone walls and feather beds, nobles, castles, and the luxury and dangers of comfort. As twilight deepens, we leave the smoky cottages of the village behind and ascend the winding path to the castle's gatehouse. Here, under thick slate roofs and behind towering curtain walls, another world of slumber awaits zone of feather mattresses, silken canopies, and nightly perils known only to the privileged few. The Four-Poster Dream. Step inside a noble's chamber. The air is scented with rosemary torches, and tapestries of hunting scenes hang between cold gray stones. In the center stands the four-poster beta marvel of medieval carpentry. Pine posts reach toward the ceiling, supporting a heavy tester draped with crimson damask. Curtains of velvet, lined with wool, close around all four sides, trapping precious body heat and shuttering out prying eyes. Yet, the true luxury lies beneath. The feather bed. Plucked geese and swans, imported from the Baltic coasts or gifted by foreign allies, fill linen sacks sewn by the lady of the house. Nobles boasted of beds layered. First coarse straw, then a mattress of horsehair, topped by the eiderdown comforter. This bed of feathers cost more than a serf's annual wages, and with good reason. It offered unprecedented softness and warmth. Heated bricks and night warmth. Despite the soft linens, stone walls leached every bit of heat. To combat the chill, servants heated bed bricks clay vessels filled with hot embers. A page would slide the brick between the sheets just before bedtime, ensuring the bed's interior reached a toasty 30-35 degrees Celsius, 86-95 degrees Fahrenheit. As napkins stiffened in the hall, the noble climbed into this pre-warmed haven, pulling the curtains tight and surrendering to a sleep that rivaled the sun's midday warmth. The chamber pot and secret noises. True privacy, however, came at a cost. Nobles did not leave their comfort to answer nature's call. Chamber pots brazenware lined with leather sat discreetly under the bed. A silent knock on the door summoned a trusted lady-in-waiting, who swiftly emptied the vessel into the moat below. Whispered gossip often collided with the quiet rustle of velvet and the splash of contents in the darkness. Late-night feasts or clandestine meetings sometimes took place in these chambers. Candle flames danced across portraits of ancestors, and the hush of stone corridors amplified every footstep. A distant drip of water from a leaking roof tile, the creak of wooden shutters swinging in a gust, the furtive murmur of a trader slipping from a secret passagehole, these could pierce even the soundest sleep. Bedbugs, moths, and unwelcome guests. No amount of luxury could keep out the smallest adversaries. Bedbugs found sanctuary in mattress seams and curtain hems, emerging at night to feed on warm flesh. Nobles hired pesticide masters who sprinkled sulfur around the bedposts or burned aromatic herbs juniper, pennyroyal, and wormwood tow repel insects. Still, reports survive of itchy nobles rising in fury at the first sting, tossing aside their finest silks and swearing never to trust another feather bed. Moths, too, laid ruin to prized woolens. The lady's maid would inspect drawers each dawn, plucking away cocoons before they hatched. Yet in summer months, even these delicate custodians could not prevent the creeping dread of invisible invaders. The two watches of the keep. While peasants segmented their nights by natural cues, castle dwellers relied on organized watches. The gatehouse guard sounded the first watch often at what we now call 9 p.m. when the portcullis clanged shut. From that hour until midnight, footmen patrolled corridors, ensuring no one prowled the ramparts with ill intent. At midnights, chime sometimes marked by a simple bell in the chapel, another shift took over. Both men-at-arms and personal bodyguards awakened the Lord's chamber, checking that all windows were barred and that no poison-laced goblet waited on the bedside table. These knights kept silent vigil, their armor muffled by woolen cloaks, ever alert to the whisper of steel against stone. The comfort hand risk-off canopies. Canopies served a dual purpose: sumptuous display and practical protection. Thick curtains about the posts kept winter drafts at bay, but they also concealed secrets. Poisoners exploited these folds, slipping vials of aconite through minute threads or applying toxins to the bedpost wood. The paranoid noble might require the bed curtains be sewn shut on 3 sides, allowing only a narrow gap to enter and exit the linens, lest any assassin strike unseen. Some lords installed concealed iron hooks above the canopy, rigged to drop chains and trap an intruder between canopy and tester. Tales circulate of doomed courtiers caught in the snares, their screams muffled by velvet drapes. Midnight prayers and superstitions. Even among the elite, sleep carried a spiritual dimension. Many nobles kept small prayer books and rosaries on their bedside tables. Should a nightmare of ravens or dripping blood arise, they would recite a few verses of the Salve Regina to chase away the dark thoughts. Fortune tellers crafted talismans, a sprig of rue under the pillow to ward off enchantments, a lock of one's own hair bound to a copper coin to ensure safe dreams. If the castle's falconer dreamed of flying hawks, that night the lord might postpone a hunt, believing birds foretold imminent illness or betrayal. The dawn of the chamber. As the eastern sky brightened, trumpets sounded sometimes on the ramparts, sometimes in the courtyard to rouse household and retainers. Noble households awoke at the cock's crow, roughly or 4 or 5 a.m., though in high summer it could be as early as 3 a.m. Servants flung open the canopy, trailing torches to guide their master back to wakefulness and the day's first prayers in the chapel. The feather bed, once a symbol of supine luxury, became a burden to wick away with heavy beaters, flailing pillows to expel lingering insects and shaking out herbs that had turned damp overnight. Linen sheets, scented with rosewater, were aired on roof battlements, while mattresses were straightened and replumped for the next night's sleep. Our tour of noble comfort concludes here where the richest linens and warmest bricks could not banish every shadow or silence every threat. In the next segment, we will step through the carved oak doors of monasteries and convents to discover how monks and nuns balanced divine vigil with human need for rest. Part 3. Monastic Watches and Midnight Prayers, Balancing Divine Vigil with Human Rest. As we step through the carved oak doors of the abbey, the murmurs of the outside world fade into a profound hush. Here, in cloisters ringed by Gothic arches and stone passageways lit by flickering sconces, sleep is not merely a natural necessity, but an integral part of a spiritual discipline. In this segment, we unveil the rhythms and rigors of monastic rest where the pursuit of divine contemplation meets the inexorable pull of human fatigue. The Divine Dial, Canonical Hours. Monastic life revolved around the 8 canonical hours, each punctuated by a bell's toll. 1. Vigil, Matins. Around 2 a.m., often the high point of nocturnal prayer, when the choir assembled in darkness to chant psalms. 2. Lauds. At dawn, songs of praise greeted the rising sun. 3. Prime. The first light of day, a brief office before work began. 4. Terce. Mid-morning reflection. 5. Sext. Midday pause for prayer. 6. Nun. Mid-afternoon psalms. 7. Vespers. Evening prayers at sunset. 8. Compline. The final blessing before chapter sleep. Between each office, monks worked the fields, copied manuscripts, or tended to infirm brethren. Sleep was strictly permitted only after compline, yet often interrupted by the summons of vigil. Thus, nights were segmented, a first rest following compline, wakefulness for matins, then a second sleep until dawn's lauds. The dormitory, community and control. Monastic dormitories long, narrow chambers known as the dorter lined one side of the cloister. Here, dozens of monks lay shoulder to shoulder on simple wooden frames topped with straw-filled mattresses. Uniformity. Each monk's pallet was identical, reinforcing equality before God. Silence. A strict vow prohibited any whisper or rustle. Even turning a page in a breviary required a taper's glow, not a torch's glare. Minimal separation. No curtains or partitions, only the ticking drip of a water clock, clepsydra, to mark the hours. A single night portress or lay brother paced the aisle, carrying a lantern and a wooden plank and a strap. Known as the Scourger, he lightly tapped slumbering monks who missed an office, ensuring no one slumbered through vigil. The Nocturnal Office, Vigils and Versicles. Matins, the most elaborate night office, could last 2 to 3 hours. In near darkness, monks filed into the choir stalls, each holding a candle the size of a man's wrist. They sang psalms antiphonally, one side proclaiming, the other responding. Antiphonal singing, a hallmark of Benedictine and Cistercian orders, creating a celestial echo within stone walls. Psalter cycling. By the 9th century, a monk recited all 150 psalms weekly, often rendering matins both a spiritual exercise and an endurance test. Aura of light. Candles flickered against vaulted ceilings, lending each chant an almost otherworldly resonance. When matins concluded, a small bell known as the Gallicinium, cock's crow, rang, symbolizing Christ's triumph over darkness and marking the first watch's end. Candles, clocks, and the candle of vigil. Monasteries pioneered candle clock scandals calibrated with tally marks that burned at predictable rates. A 5-ounce beeswax candle might burn fully in 5 hours, each inch signifying an hour past. Illumination and timekeeping. As candles melted, monks visually gauged their vigil's progress. Oil lamps. Simpler houses used olive oil lamps, their smoky wicks trimmed to last through matins. Some cloisters also employed rudimentary water clocks, a steady trickle from one vessel to another, marked in notches. Though lacking Roman precision, together these timekeepers imposed divine structure on night's formlessness. The rule of Saint Benedict, sleep as obedience. Saint Benedict's 6th century rule balanced asceticism with compassion. He permitted 6 hours of sleep per night, forbade napping by day, and insisted on silence from Compline until first office. Obedience over comfort. Strict hours overrode personal preference, more pillow talk or late-night reading. Physiological consideration. By limiting sleep, Benedict implicitly recognized its power to distract from devotion. Yet he also cautioned against extremes. Let them sleep well, but let them not be given over to lethargy. The rule became a blueprint for monastic orders across Europe, embedding sleep within sacred duty. Lay brothers versus choir monks, contrasting rests. Not all inhabitants of the abbey followed identical routines. Choir monks, sons of the gentry or minor nobility, devoted primarily to prayer and study. They formed the heart of the dormer. Lay brothers, conversely, committed to manual labor, agriculture, brewing, smithing, often housed separately, and allowed more flexible rest aligned with work demands. This division ensured the choir remained vigilant, while lay brothers sustained the abbey's economic ingenious medieval division of labor that shaped nightly rhythms. Herbal brews and midnight remedies. Despite piety, monks also tended earthly ailments, including insomnia. Monastic infirmaries cultivated herb gardens rich with valerian root, boiled into tea to induce gentle sleep; hops and chamomile, steeped together and sweetened with honey, offering a mild sedative. Skullcap and lavender, planted along cloister walks, crushed underfoot to scent the air. Physicians often, Benedictine or Augustinian monks recorded recipes in medicinal manuscripts. A typical sleep cordial combined crushed valerian, poppy juice, and a dash of wormwood, taken before compline to ease the transition into rest. Visions in the dark, mystical encounters. Monastic tradition teems with reports of nocturnal visions. Angel choirs. Some chroniclers claimed that during vigil, angels joined human voices in invisible choirs. Monastic apparitions. Tales of Saint Benedict appearing to troubled novices, guiding them through spiritual trials. Dream revelations. A monk might awaken with a clear answer to a theological puzzle pondered by day, convinced it was imparted in sleep. These mystical experiences reinforced the conviction that the thin veil between worlds grew wisest in the night's silent depths. From silence to sunrise, the dawn bell. After matins, a second slumber often brief followed until lauds at first light. Here, the dawn bell summoned monks back to the choir. Universal ringer. A central bell tower, its chime echoing across gardens and guest houses. Regimen of light. As faint pink broke the horizon, stained glass windows scattered rose and gold across stone floors. By the time the abbot presided at lauds, the entire community, fortified by a consecrated night of prayer, turned again toward daily labor fields, scriptorium, refectory renewed by spiritual and bodily rest. Part 4. Dreams, Omens, and Sleep Remedies. Magic, medicine, and the mysteries of midnight. As midnight's veil falls for the final time in our journey, we enter the realm where science, superstition, and alchemy entwine. In the medieval mind, sleep was not merely rest. It was a liminal space where the natural and supernatural danced together. From whispered charms beside the hearth to exotic concoctions brewed in monastery infirmaries, every soul sought mastery over dreams, omens, and the elixirs of repose. In this final chapter, we unveil the remedies and rituals designed to invite peaceful slumber and divine visions alike. Oneiromancy, the art of dream divination. Long before Freud and Jung, medieval scholars studied oneiromancy, practice of interpreting dreams as messages from God, spirits, or hidden realms. Manuals such as the Ars Oneiromantica circulated in Latin scriptoria and traveled by whispered word into noble courts and humble cottages. Dream registers. Wealthy patrons kept parchment scrapbooks by their bedsides. At dawn, a servant or literate wife would transcribe vivid dreams alongside the moon's phase and the corporal posture in which the sleeper found themselves upon awakening. Symbolic lexicons. Common guides equated horses with deliverance, birds with omens of war, and water with emotional turbulence. A dream of spilled wine could portend betrayal at the feast. A ladder might foretell a sudden rise in fortune. Clerical consultation. Those fearing sinister portents might seek out a bishop or wandering hermit known for prophetic insight. Charged with penance or prayer, the dreamer received absolution or instructions to avert misfortune as such as tossing consecrated salt at the four corners of their bed. This blending of record-keeping, symbolism, and ecclesiastic counsel turned the night into a tapestry of meaning, guiding decisions from war councils to peasant sowing plans. Sleep elixirs, potions, panagars, and night drafts. When incense and banging shields failed to banish restless nights, medieval alchemists and apothecaries turned to the apothecary's art. Their medieval pharmacy offered a spectrum of sleep-inducing brews. 1. Poppy wine. A fermented libation blending red or white wine with opium poppy sap. Taken sparingly, before compline, it soothed frayed nerves and eased the body into a drowsy haze. 2. Panagar. A spicy, honeyed syrup derived from the root of valerian, mixed with mallow and saffron. Pilgrims carried small flasks of panagar to quell seasickness and insomnia alike. 3. Mandrake elixir. Reserved for the wealthy, mandrake root whose, forked taproot, resembled a human form, was crushed and steeped in rosewater. Its potent narcotic power relieved pain, but risked vivid nightmares if overdosed. 4. Distilled waters. Rose water, orange blossom water, and sleep water, distilled from lavender and lemon balm, found favor in convents. A few drops on a cloth pillow or sipped before bed signaled the mind to unwind. Apothecaries inscribed these recipes in bound herbals, each scrubbed of pagan incantations by church censors. Yet in secret margins, scribes still noted the proper invocations. By the grace of St. John, let this sip guide thee to peaceful horizons. Talismans, charms, and warding threads. Beyond potions lay the realm of protective amulet objects believed to anchor the sleeper against malevolent spirits and nocturnal fears. Rune, inscribed stones. Vikings and Norse, descended nobles tucked pebbles, etched with elder Futhark runes under pillows, calling upon ancient deities to watch over their rest. Silken dream, bags. Crafted by nuns in remote convents, these small pouches contained fragments of holy relics, thorns from Christ's crown, or scraps of saintly vestments. Hung from bedposts, they shimmered in candlelight and whispered divine safeguarding. Iron horseshoes and bells. Farmhouses nailed inverted horseshoes above doorways and bed canopies. Blacksmiths tempered small iron bells, whose tinkling was said to shatter invisible hexes. Warding threads. Some peasants braided garlic skins, rosemary sprigs, and strands of human hair into cords, looped around the sleeper's waist. A grassroots blend of the culinary, botanical, and personal. These charms served as talismans against nightmares, literal bad dreams, believed to enter from cracks in walls or through keyhole sand, reassured the mind that unseen forces stood guard. Ritual baths, lullabies, and the preparation of night. Physical preparations for sleep were as elaborate as any potion. Across Europe, both common folk and aristocrats embraced evening rites to signal the body's departure from wakefulness. Herbal steam baths. In manor houses, hot steam infused with mugwort and wormwood enveloped the bather, opening pores and releasing tension. Wood-fired copper basins funneled steam into curtained alcoves, foreshadowing modern saunas. Linen sachets. Small pillows filled with dried lavender, hyssop, and hops were warmed over hearth coals, then laid beneath the head. The fragrant vapors coaxed eyelids closed and aided respiratory relaxation, chanting lullabies. In convent guest houses, novices hummed gentle Latin antiphons as they rocked the youngest boarders. Even in peasant cottages, mothers sang folk melodies that blended Christian verses with echoes of Norse sagas, their soft cadences lulling children and often themselves into dozing comfort. Light management. Wealthy households installed glazed windows of horn or polished mica to admit moonlight without bitter drafts. Candle holders featured metal reflectors angled to illuminate reading by daylight standards, then to be strategically extinguished at a precise glyph in an adjacent wall painting, signaling eyes to dim. These rituals cocooned the body in warmth, scent, and sound, guiding it gently toward unconsciousness. From dream to day, interpreting omens and shaping fate. Should sleep deliver a portentous image, the careful sleeper awoke with both fear and hope. Sunrise rituals dictated the handling of these nocturnal messages. Morning offerings. A dream of storm-tossed ships might prompt a fisher to toss a piece of fish entrails back into the sea as tribute. Communal councils. In towns and guild halls, dreamers recounted visions before a magistrate. If several citizens dreamed of plague birds, preventive measures like quarantines or public fasts followed. Pilgrimages and penance. Noble women dreaming of stained chalices might undertake holy journeys to distant shrines or sponsor almsgiving in hopes of divine cleansing. In every case, the boundary between dream and waking choice was fluid, a vision-shaped policy, commerce, and personal penance. The legacy of medieval slumber. Though the age of steel armor and feather beds has passed, echoes of medieval sleep practices endure. Modern segmented sleep-2 sleeps, bridged by an hour wakeful, has resurfaced in sleep research as a natural human rhythm. Herbal infusions, like lavender and chamomile, remain staples in bedtime teas, and the language of dream sources, ladders, broken glass still, populates our collective unconscious. As our candles gutter and our final words drift into silence, remember that medieval sleepers embraced the night not as an enemy, but as a sacred realm of healing, prophecy, and communal ritual. Their remedies, both practical and arc and spring, from a timeless desire to traverse the unknown with courage, to seek comfort against fear, and to awaken anew at dawn's golden edge. Epilogue. Our odyssey through medieval dreamscapes ends here. From the humble hay-strewn hut to the hushed cloisters and lofty towers, we've walked the night as our ancestors died ever balancing necessity, fear, and wonder. May this script guide your listeners into a restful slumber, enriched by the marvels of a time when every dream was a door to the extraordinary. Sleep well, then, and dream sweetly of candlelit abbeys, feathered beds, and the gentle hum of a world at rest.